This video is going to be on parenting and how we parent our children. And parent in general, the Latin meaning, par, means to be even or equal, and ent means to be in or within. So parent really means that you are equal with your child within. You physically look different because you obviously age and mature in this world, but within, we all have the same intelligence and all have the same understanding and capability to understand everything. Our child is equal to us, which is how we really see it. We are their guidance. We're not controlling them and telling them what to do. We're just here to guide them into the most right direction that we know of at this point.
Right, which most parents are very controlling over their kids, and they're very, they feel like they have power over their kids, and their kids have to do what they say, and we don't see it as that way at all. So our style is what most people would consider like a gentle parenting or attachment parenting. We don't really like to label it, but the way that we have done things for the past maybe year and a half to 2 years, we started homeschooling her, about a year ago? Last October. We took her out of school and we started homeschooling her. So her homeschooling is really, she has a lot of freedom. So we don't force anything on her. We don't force her to do any work necessarily. One good example is reading. I started reading to her when she was really young. And then we never forced her to, when she was supposed to start reading, we didn't make her sit and read things to us or anything like that. It kind of just came to her naturally, just from me reading to her or us reading to her. We read to her sometimes. And she just showed an interest in it. And now she's reading probably at least 3 to 4 ages above her what she's supposed to be reading, which we don't really go by. But that's all her decision. She chooses what she reads, when she wants to read, and whatever she wants to do with it. When she comes to me with a specific topic about what she wants to learn, me and her will look it up together and go over things. And to me, that's more learning than her sitting down and writing things out and me making her do math problems and stuff like that. So she has a lot of freedom in her learning and just in her life in general. With the homeschooling, she's allowed to wake up when she wants to. She's not on a schedule. So she makes a lot of choices for herself. She's very independent. So another thing is that since we don't feel that we have authority over her, we never tell her that she's wrong in what she's doing or what she's thinking or what she's feeling. So even if she's acting out or doing something that she's reacting to something, we never tell her that she shouldn't be acting that way, rather than acknowledge that she's having this emotional reaction, and we talk about it. So we try and find out, why are you reacting this way, or why are you feeling this way? And then we address it that way. We never yell at her, because that obviously doesn't do anything. One thing that I learned a long time ago when I was going to a junior college, I took a parenting class, and it was a really great class. They taught me, that's where I really learned that they're equal to you. Because one thing was that when the kids start throwing a tantrum, you should never be above them. You should get down to their level and talk to them in a calm voice, because raising your voice only makes it worse. But it's easier when you're down to their level than when you're above them, because that's showing that you're above them. And we're really not. We're all, she's a person just like we are. She's just not, she hasn't experienced as much as we have yet. So, let's see. Another thing is that she does not watch TV. We stopped watching TV, me and Korey did probably
2
2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And with her it was a little longer because it was just harder for her to break away from that.
When we say TV, we mean just in general watching shows, because she watched it on her iPad. We got rid of our TV.
Right. Yeah. So, we stopped watching TV shows, so we got rid of our TV, and then she still had her iPad. And she was watching shows on her iPad for quite a long time, like at least 6 months to 8 months after we stopped watching TV shows. And that was just because it was harder for her to break away from that. Since she was really, really young, I had always just put her in front of the TV for everything. So even when she was really, 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 really young, I would put her right, like in her baby swing and turn a TV show on. And my mom used to watch her while I worked, and she would do the same thing. And so when Korey's grandparents would watch her, they would do the same thing. You put a TV show on for your kids. That's what we're taught. It's a good way to distract them so that they don't bother you. So it was really hard for her to find other things to fulfill her time rather than watch TV. So we slowly started cutting back on shows, and I would say, okay, you can watch 2 shows today. Then the shows would be like a half hour long, and then we went down to like 1 show a day, and then it would be like every other day. So it was more gradual for her. But since she has stopped watching TV, her imagination is completely different. Now she does not tell me she's bored anymore. She did for the first probably like 2 to 3 months, because she had to find other ways to play and do other things rather than watch a TV show. But once she stopped thinking about it and realized that there was lots of other things she could do, her imagination is just crazy. She runs around all day playing, and she does ask me to play with her sometimes, which we always make ourselves available to her when she does want to play with us. But for most of the day, she really likes to draw, and she can really play with anything. She can, there can be whatever she finds outside, she plays with, and she can just sit there for hours just playing. And she never used to do that. She only started doing that when she completely stopped watching TV. And that just comes from her formulating her own thoughts instead of going off of what is on the TV shows.
And the reason you have to do it systematically, especially with children, is it physically changes your brain and how it receives things. So they're just used to watching it, and it's very hard for them, because they don't understand it, to just completely do it at once like we did. Because we had an understanding of what we were doing and that we were addicted to it. She doesn't really know that, so you have to wean them off, sort of like a drug addict.
Right. So with everything, we have made dramatic changes over the years, and with everything that we have changed, we always explain everything to her. Why we're changing it, why we're feeding her a certain way, which he'll talk about in a little bit. But we always tell her why we're doing something. We don't just say that, we're the parents and you have to do this just because we say so. There's always a reason behind what we're doing, and we always make sure to fully explain that to her. And we feel that that's has really played an important role in having a good relationship with her, because of how open we are. So let's see. So then the other thing I wanted to talk about was co-sleeping. because we try to make ourselves, we really like work together with her. So with co-sleeping, when she was a baby, we did not even like know about co-sleeping. I was always told, you know, if you sleep with the baby, you're gonna roll over on it and you're gonna kill them, you're gonna suffocate them. And she did sleep with me for a little bit after I had her, only because I was breastfeeding her and I would be really tired at night, and it was just so much easier for me to just feed her in bed than to have to get up and feed her. But then I had brought her cradle right in to the room, and she would sleep next to me in the cradle. And then she only stayed in there for a little bit, and then she went in her own room very early on. So I'd have to wake up, go into her room in the middle of the night, and feed her or rock her, whatever she needed. So she's very used to being in her own room and being in her own bed. We know now that we're going to do it very different with this baby, which will be sleeping in the same bed with us for as long as they want to. And she's allowed to come in our bed whenever she wants to. We never tell her that she can't. She just doesn't like to as much because she's so used to being in her own bed and in her own room. And then on the nights that she doesn't sleep with us, she usually wants me to come in and lay with her in bed. And I noticed that she falls asleep. It's very comforting for kids to be by their parents, to be near them, and she falls asleep instantly, usually whenever I come in and lay with her. So we just feel that connection is very important, and I wish that we would have known about co-sleeping and being in the same room, even in the same room with her, but we just, you know, like we just never tell her that she has to be in her own bed, she has to be in her own room. She's allowed to come and go whenever she wants.
And even when Nicki does go up and lay with her in her bed, sometimes Nicki isn't able to go right away, and Ava will fight going to sleep because she wants to lay with Nicki that much, because she likes laying with her. That she'll come and ask us questions and keep thoughts going through her head just to keep herself awake, so that she's awake when Nicki goes up there to lay with her.
Right, and then so she can keep herself, I mean, that could be a long period of time before I go up there, and then as soon as I go up, I'll lay down and she's asleep within 5 minutes. So we even see like the importance of, you know, being with them and being near them, and that's the more like attachment parenting, I would say, to her. So then another thing we practice with her is, like I said, we're very open and honest with her. We never lie to her, and that kind of came into play with the whole Santa Claus and Easter Bunny thing. For a long time, we told her that Santa Claus was real, the Easter Bunny was real, and all these things. And he wanted to tell her earlier than I did. I was still stuck in the way, like in society, and them saying that, you know, it's fun for them and you should do it, and if you do tell them, then you're, you know, I don't know, they hear.
It was an emotional attachment, it was a mental attachment.
Right.
That she thought she was going to harm her by telling her.
Right, yeah. So just this past year when she was 5, we decided to tell her that like Santa wasn't real and all these things weren't real, and we explained it in the way that we want her to be open and honest with us, and we don't want her to lie to us, and we feel that it's only right that we do the same thing and we treat her in the same regard. So I told her that it was something silly that people, you know, lie to their kids about because they think it's fun, but we still see it as a lie. So we just told her that it wasn't real, and she was completely fine with it. Her answer was that she didn't care because she was going to get stuff anyways because we were Santa Claus. So she knew early on, though, because even before when we were still telling her that it was real, she would ask us like lots of questions just about like mostly the Easter Bunny and Santa, and say that it didn't make sense. That it didn't make sense that a bunny could, come to every house and hide all these Easter eggs and leave a basket. And it didn't make sense, like, where did all these toys come from Santa Claus, where he's delivering to all these kids. So we would just tell her, like, oh, they come from the North Pole, the elves make them, like what parents always tell their kids. And she would just look at us like we're crazy, but she would still like kind of go along with it. But even though we could tell that she kind of knew that something didn't click right, like it didn't make sense with her. So when I told her, it really wasn't a big deal at all, because we didn't really make it a big deal. Like, we were never really into buying her tons of things for Christmas, or even like her birthday. Like, we just believe in like small things and
things that are useful.
Yeah.
Things that will actually help her grow as a person.
Right. And a lot of things, like, I have found since she stopped watching TV, is that she makes anything a toy. So she can, have like a bunch of sticks, and she will pretend like they're people or pretend like they're something, and she'll sit there and play with them for hours. And that's not something that I had to go to the store and spend money on, that somebody's making in a factory. So a lot of things, like, she's more in nature more too, because we don't, since she stopped watching TV, and yeah, she's just completely different.
So, with food, we all started on a mostly standard American diet, and we thought we were actually healthy at the point to some extent, because we tried to eat what we were told through the media and the different outlets that was healthy for you. And once we moved here to Phoenix, we started to notice really how unhealthy that we actually are, and what we actually were eating was. We started to look at all the ingredients on everything, and really looked into how it harmed us, and specifically our child, because that's really why we decided to do almost everything that we did with our life, is to make sure that our children have the most fulfilling, natural, and sustainable life that they could possibly have here on this earth. And all the ingredients, they cause so many problems with the children. There's the dyes, all the different sugars, and just all the different chemicals that they use in general. They cause temperamental issues, anxiety in them. It causes them to go through puberty at early ages. There's a long list of things that a lot of them cause, which all you have to do is look at the label and go and search that ingredient, and you will find exactly what it does pretty easily, actually. And when we moved here, we started to change it all, and as we were changing, we all changed our diet together, which made it very easy for us, because we were always eating the same type of things then. And we came to now with what we're eating, which is a mostly fruit-based diet. We eat some salads, some leafy vegetables, really no other vegetables besides that that aren't cooked. But with her, it's mostly fruit every day, and she loves eating that way. As long as she has a variety to choose from and she's able to eat what she wants to eat, she would not rather eat anything else at this point. And even when we were eating a less optimal diet than we are right now, when we were feeding her, we were eating organic stuff at the time, and we were feeding her meat, and she didn't even want to eat it. We would have to tell her either wasn't in it, or say it was something else, or bargain with her to eat the meat because we thought it was healthy at the time, and she just wouldn't want it at all. She would want cucumber or something else more whole than the actual food that we thought was healthy for her, which, come to find out, that's actually the food that she should be eating, is the whole foods, the fruits and vegetables, which is what she's always wanted even from the beginning. And we were really the ones that corrupted her to eat another way, when if we would have listened to her from the beginning, she would have never even went through eating cooked foods and everything. Then as we work towards her eating more fruit and raw and live foods, she still did have cravings for some cooked foods, but it was mostly rice and beans and just plain rice and beans with nothing in it, which still isn't the best thing, but it's not nearly as detrimental to your health than all the processed foods filled with all the chemicals. And just as she began eating more and more fruits, she just worked away from those things. It's that easy. As you don't want to stop eating something, you just want to eat more of something else. And those things that aren't as optimal to you, they just go away because you feel how much better you are when you're eating the food that is actually optimal to our human bodies. And now it's fruit almost every day. Sometimes she'll eat potatoes and other cooked starches, roots and tubers, but it's mostly fruit. The only time that we eat that stuff is when we don't have a supply of fruit to sustain us. When there's not enough ripe fruit in our house to eat, we'll get some potatoes and some carrots and stuff like that and steam them and eat them that way, which is cooked very conservatively then. And it's nearly as good as fruit, but it's not as fulfilling and optimal for us. And you can see the little differences if you really pay close attention when you're eating the steamed food as opposed to a completely fruit-based diet.
And that's really when she asks for things that are like not fruit based. It's when we don't have a variety available. So that's when she's looking for more, like when she asks more for the potatoes and stuff like that. It's when she doesn't have a variety to choose from. So then just the last thing that I wanted to touch on is if the kids, like we believe that if kids are old enough to be asking the question, then they're old enough to receive the answer. So we've never danced around the truth or anything like that because we don't feel that she's old enough to know. So things like sex and like getting your period, she was always very inquisitive about that, and I've always just been open and honest with her and explained it in the best way that I believe that she could understand it at that age. And she'll still ask questions. That's how I know that she doesn't fully understand something. But we still believe that if she is asking the question, then she deserves to know the answer to it. And we do the same thing with her, that she can ask us, or we ask her questions and she should be able to answer us. So it goes both ways. So we just try to be very fair with her. We're not above her, and we just treat her just like she's another little person.
And we get to remember from the beginning, I said about parent meetings, we are equal on the inside, which we're not communicating on the inside in this world right now. We're talking through in language that was created in this world, English, most of us. And she hasn't had the experience with English that we have had so far, so she cannot communicate a lot of the things that we talk to her about, which is really where the communication gap is. It's not with how intelligent she is, it's with her understanding of the words that we are saying to her. She just doesn't know them all yet.
Right. Yep, so that's it for this video. Thanks.
Have a good night. Have a good day.